You've probably heard the line, when you stop caring, everything starts to work out. And part of you wants it to be true because you're tired. Tired of overthinking. Tired of trying to control every outcome. Tired of carrying the invisible weight of what other people might think. But here's the twist. If you stop caring the wrong way, your life collapses. If you stop caring the right way, your life gets strangely lighter, clearer, more effective. Stay with me, because in this episode of The Paradox Garden, we're going to unpack what that sentence really means through the philosophy of Michel de Montaigne, why not caring is often misunderstood, how it can become a disciplined form of freedom, and how it can quietly transform your relationships, your work, and your inner peace without turning you cold or indifferent. Before we jump in, quick favor that genuinely helps keep this channel alive. Subscribe, hit like, and drop a comment. It helps more than you think, and it keeps these reflective stories and ideas coming. All right, no fluff. Let's go. The phrase, when you stop caring, everything starts to work out, sounds like a paradox, because it is one. It's also the kind of sentence that gets misused. Some people hear it and think it means, stop trying, stop feeling, stop loving, stop hoping. But that isn't wisdom. That's exhaustion wearing a mask. Montaigne would hate that kind of fake strength. He wasn't a philosopher of emotional shutdown. He was a philosopher of human realism, of admitting what we are without pretending we're angels or machines. So if you want this idea to actually work, we have to clarify what we're stopping and what we're keeping. You're not stopping care. You're stopping the kind of care that turns your mind into a prison. Montaigne's great gift is that he doesn't approach life like a spiritual hero or a moral superhero. He approaches life like a person who has watched himself closely enough to be honest. He wrote essays not to sound impressive, but to understand his own mind. That's why he still feels modern. He's not trying to win an argument against you. He's trying to show you the room inside your own head. And one of the most Montaigne-like moves you can make is this. Separate what is actually yours from what you've been trained to carry. Most of what drains you isn't the world. It's your attempt to predict the world, manage the world, and be safe inside the world by controlling how it perceives you. That's the beginning of stop caring, not stop caring about values. Stop caring about performance. Stop caring about the scoreboard you didn't choose. Because there are two kinds of pressure. There's the pressure of doing what matters, and there's the pressure of being seen doing what matters. One builds you, the other eats you. Montaigne lived in a time of instability, conflict, and fear. But what's striking is how he treats anxiety like a mental habit rather than a prophecy. He doesn't deny danger exists. He denies that panic improves your judgment. And that's a critical difference, especially today. When you stop caring in the Montaigne sense, you stop feeding the illusion that your worry is a kind of control. Most people don't realize how emotionally addictive worry can be. Worry feels like work. It feels responsible. It feels like you're preparing. But often it's just your mind spinning in place to avoid the one thing that would actually help. A clear decision followed by a real action. Worry is the brain's way of staying busy without risking change. Montaigne would call that self-deception, but gently. He doesn't shame you for it. He recognizes it as human. He recognizes how the mind tries to protect itself. And then he asks the kind of question that makes you uncomfortable in the best way. Is your fear actually useful, or is it just familiar? Because a lot of our suffering is not the event. It's the rehearsal. It's the mental theater where we stage disasters before they arrive, and then we call that being prepared. If you've ever been exhausted after a day where nothing even happened, you know exactly what I mean. Your body is tired because your mind ran a marathon. So what does Montaigne offer instead? He offers a practice. Come back to the size of reality. We magnify, we exaggerate, we inflate. We turn a possible failure into a permanent identity. We turn one rejection into a verdict on our worth. We turn uncertainty into catastrophe. And then we wonder why life feels impossible. Montaigne's answer is not, be confident. It's, be proportionate. Proportion is a form of freedom. When you stop caring, in the wise sense, you stop making every outcome sacred. You stop treating every moment like it's your final exam as a human being. You stop making the world your judge. And the moment you do that, something unexpected happens. You become more effective. Because you can finally see what you're doing. Think about any skill you've tried to learn. If you care too much, you get rigid. Your hands tighten. Your breath shortens. Your mind narrows. You start performing instead of practicing. You try to be good immediately, and that anxiety sabotages the learning itself. But when you loosen the grip, you focus. You experiment. You adjust. You learn faster because you're not trying to protect your ego at every second. This is why stop caring can make things start to work out. It removes the ego's interference. Montaigne is basically telling you, stop making your life into a stage play where you must look impressive while you live it. But here's the important part. Montaigne is not arguing for apathy. He's arguing for a calmer kind of commitment. Apathy says, nothing matters. Montaigne says, some things matter, and that's why I refuse to waste my soul on nonsense. That's a different energy. It's a refined care, a selective care, a care with boundaries. A lot of people today are suffering from a care deficit in the right places and a care overdose in the wrong places. They care deeply about being liked, but not deeply about being honest. They care deeply about appearing successful, but not deeply about being healthy. They care deeply about what people say online, but not deeply about the quiet promises they made to themselves. Montaigne would look at that and say, you've inverted your priorities, and your nervous system is paying the price. So let's make this concrete. When you stop caring, what are you actually stopping? You're stopping the compulsive need for approval. You're stopping the constant mental negotiation with imaginary critics. You're stopping the habit of turning other people's opinions into the center of your identity. Montaigne is famous for writing about himself, but not because he was self-obsessed. He wrote about himself because he understood a radical truth. If you study one human honestly, you study humanity. And one of the most universal patterns is this. We outsource our self-worth. We make ourselves dependent on signs, on feedback, on praise, on status, on belonging, on being the good one, on being the smart one, on being the strong one. And then we live afraid of losing the role. The philosophy of Michel de Montaigne is like a hand on your shoulder saying, you are not your role. You can fail and still be you. You can be disliked and still be you. You can be misunderstood and still be you. You can be average in a moment and still be you. And that's not a depressing thought. That's liberation. Because the role is exhausting. The role requires constant performance. But the self can breathe. This is where the title really becomes interesting. When you stop caring, everything starts to work out. Notice the word work out. It doesn't mean everything becomes perfect. It means everything becomes workable, manageable, navigable. It means life returns to its natural shape, imperfect, uncertain, but livable. Montaigne had a deep respect for the ordinary. He didn't need life to be dramatic to be meaningful. That alone is a revolutionary idea in a culture addicted to extremes. He would say, your life doesn't need to be extraordinary to be good. The need to be extraordinary is often just fear that ordinary will not be loved. But ordinary, when lived with integrity, is not small. It's honest. And honesty is rare. So how does this translate to daily life? It begins with a shift in your relationship to outcomes. Most people care about outcomes in a way that turns them into hostages. They treat outcomes like proof of their worth. So if the outcome is uncertain, their worth feels uncertain. And that makes them desperate. And desperation makes people do stupid things. It makes people cling. It makes people lie. It makes people overpromise. It makes people chase what doesn't even fit them. Montaigne would say, Stop handing your dignity to the outcome. Do what you can. Do it well. Then let the outcome be what it is. That's not laziness. That's discipline. That's the discipline of limits. Because here's a hard truth. You cannot control the whole chain of events. You can control your effort, your intention, your preparation, your honesty. You can influence the rest, but you cannot own it. So the mature move is to invest fully in what is yours and release what isn't. When you do that, you become calmer. When you become calmer, you become sharper. When you become sharper, your decisions improve. When your decisions improve, your life starts to work out. Not magically, logically. Now let's talk about relationships, because this is where stop caring becomes either a cure or a poison. A lot of relationships fail because one person is caring in a controlling way. They don't call it control. They call it love. They call it concern. They call it, I just want what's best. But the energy underneath is fear. Fear of abandonment. Fear of not being enough. Fear of losing the image. Montaigne's approach would be, love people as they are, not as your anxiety demands they become. That is extremely difficult, and it is extremely freeing, because when you stop caring about controlling someone's response, you start hearing them. You stop managing the conversation to protect your ego. You stop needing every interaction to confirm you're lovable. And paradoxically, you become more lovable because you become more present. The same is true in work, in art, in any craft. If you obsess over recognition, you tend to produce shallow work that chases trends. But if you care about the work itself, your quality rises, your voice becomes clearer, your mind becomes less divided. And again, things start to work out. One of Montaigne's most healing insights is that the self is not a fixed statue. It's a moving thing. It changes. It contradicts itself. It has moods. It has limits. It has surprises. And a lot of suffering comes from demanding that you be consistent like a product. But you are not a product. You are a person. So when you stop caring, you also stop caring about being perfectly coherent at all times. You stop punishing yourself for being human. You stop acting like you must have an answer to every question about your life. You accept that uncertainty is part of wisdom. That acceptance is not weakness, it's maturity. Because the opposite is not strength. The opposite is rigidity. And rigidity breaks. Now I want to address the part of the title that might sound dangerous. When you stop caring, everything starts to work out. Some people take this and use it to justify being selfish. They become cold. They stop showing up. They call it detachment, but it's actually avoidance. It's not philosophy. It's a defense mechanism. Montaigne would not respect that. He was not a philosopher of irresponsibility. He was a philosopher of sanity. The difference is subtle but crucial. Wisdom detaches from ego, not from duty. Wisdom detaches from vanity, not from love. Wisdom detaches from obsession, not from meaning. So if stop caring makes you stop being kind, stop being faithful to your values, stop being reliable, then you did it wrong. That's not Montaigne. That's burnout pretending to be enlightenment. Montaigne's version of not caring is more like, I will not let my fear of judgment dictate my life, but I will still live with decency. I will still honor what is good. And that's where the real freedom is. Because the deepest trap in modern life is not that people don't know what's good. It's that they're afraid to commit to it without applause. They want goodness to be rewarded immediately. They want kindness to be liked. They want honesty to be safe. And when it isn't, they collapse into cynicism. Montaigne offers a sturdier path. Do what is right, because it is right, not because it guarantees comfort. That kind of inner backbone changes everything. It makes you harder to manipulate. It makes you less reactive. It makes your mood less dependent on external weather. And again, life starts to work out, because you stop fighting reality with your ego. There's another Montaigne move that matters here. He refuses to turn life into an abstract theory. He doesn't say, here's how humans should be in an ideal world. He says, Here's how humans actually are, including me. That humility is what makes his philosophy usable. So let's do a Montaigne-style mirror exercise in words. If your life is not working out, ask yourself which of these you are secretly doing. Are you trying to control how everyone sees you? Are you trying to avoid any discomfort and calling it peace? Are you chasing a perfect plan so you never have to risk failing? Are you rehearsing disasters in your head and calling it preparation? Are you living for outcomes instead of living for integrity? If any of that hits, don't panic. The point is not guilt. The point is awareness. Montaigne would say, we don't become better by pretending we're already better. We become better by seeing clearly. And seeing clearly is the first form of freedom. Now let's go deeper, because there's a psychological truth hidden inside this entire topic. Many people care too much because they're trying to earn safety. They think, if I do everything right, if I please everyone, if I anticipate every problem, then I'll be safe from rejection, from shame, from humiliation. But life doesn't offer that deal. You can do everything right and still be misunderstood. You can be loyal and still be betrayed. You can be competent and still be overlooked. So if your caring is actually an attempt to guarantee safety, it will never end. It will never be enough. It will keep escalating. Montaigne's philosophy is like a calm refusal to bargain with the universe. He says, accept the risk of being human, accept the fragility, accept that you cannot build a life with no uncertainty. And once you accept that, your caring becomes lighter, because it's no longer desperate. You start acting from values instead of from fear. And this is the strange secret. Values create consistency. Fear creates urgency. Urgency feels powerful, but it's chaotic. Values are quieter, but they're stable. So when you stop caring, you stop living in urgency. You stop needing everything to be resolved immediately. You stop needing certainty before action. You stop needing other people to agree with your choices before you make them. And your life begins to work out because you finally become a person who can move, not a person stuck in mental negotiation. Montaigne also speaks to something that's very American in its modern form, the obsession with optimization. The idea that your life is a project to be perfected, that your emotions are problems to be fixed, that your identity is a brand to be managed. But Montaigne would say, your life is not a product, it's a practice, and a practice includes imperfect days. It includes errors. It includes contradictions. It includes learning. If you treat your life like a brand, you will care too much about appearance and not enough about truth. If you treat your life like a practice, you care about direction more than about perfection. That shift is everything. Because direction gives you peace. Perfection gives you anxiety. Now let's tie this back to the title one more time in the clearest terms. When you stop caring, everything starts to work out. Means this. When you stop caring about what you cannot control, you gain energy for what you can control. When you stop caring about looking perfect, you gain focus to become competent. When you stop caring about pleasing everyone, you gain courage to live honestly. When you stop caring about constant validation, you gain the quiet strength of self-respect. And self-respect is the foundation of a life that works. Not because it makes life easy, but because it makes you stable. And stability is what turns chaos into something you can handle. So here's the question I want to leave you with, and I really want your answer in the comments because it says a lot about where you are right now. What is the one thing you're caring about that you suspect is draining your life more than it's improving it? Is it reputation? Is it control? Is it a relationship you're trying to force? Is it a future you're trying to predict? Tell me what it is, and tell me what you think would change if you loosened your grip by just 10%. And if this episode helped you, please subscribe, hit like, and leave a comment. It helps keep the Paradox Garden alive, and it tells the algorithm that philosophy that actually helps people is worth sharing.